In the criminal justice system, the people,
Pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law, you're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
At the Supreme Court, at the White House, at his house, Clarence Thomas is the go-to justice to swear in all of Trump's cabinet. That's right. Donald Trump tapped Clarence Thomas over and over and over again. He has been there alongside several Trump administration cabinet officials, making them official by swearing them in. He and his wife, Ginni, drawing exceptional attention from President Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump loves Ginni, and he loves Clarence. And they are all over these cabinet officials swearing.
I come from regular stock.
Yes. He administered the oath to Pam Bondi as she became the new Attorney General. He swore in Scott Turner as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. He read the oath to Sean Duffy, the new Secretary of the Department of Transportation. He swore in Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security head. That's right. He is a busy, busy guy. It is Clarence Thomas, the one vote you can count on if you're Donald Trump, alongside probably Alito. And as Donald Trump increasingly looks to the Supreme Court for help in pushing through some of these decisions, perhaps Clarence Thomas will be a prominent figure. Certainly Ginni Thomas, a prominent figure in the J6 world, as you'll recall.
The Cha-Cha heals with a great question. What did Clarence get tipped for all that extra work?
What did he get tipped? He's a Supreme Court justice. That's what he...
Oh, there wasn't an extra motorhome?
I don't...
You get nothing!
No, but it is true that he has...
little extra
he's on the Harlan Crow
Yeah.
billionaire gravy train, and I'm sure that train continues. It was disturbing in the extreme as the first woman to lead the Coast Guard was forced out of her residence with 3 hours' notice. This is the kind of cruelty that I think they really deal in this administration. I'm sorry to say it. And I don't know how long I'll be able to say it on this platform. So if something happens to our show and in this world, I look on the internet, Google, and try to find where we end up. I will try to certainly keep this show going. But I really think that this administration, in addition to being lawless, is gratuitously cruel. The first woman to lead the U.S. Coast Guard evicted from her home with only 3 hours' notice. She had to leave behind most of her personal items. This is the shock removal of a 4-star admiral, Linda Fagan. She had to leave the Joint Base Anacostia Bowling, I think it is, Bolling. It's the Washington, D.C. Office, and that's where she is in residence. And officials stripped her of her role as a commandant of the Coast Guard in a workforce-wide email. This is a ruthless purge that's going on because of DEI emphasis. This is what they talk about in this expulsion. Despite originally being told that she had 60 days to vacate, she was notified by aides to DHS senior advisor and retired Coast Guard officer Sean Planky that she had, in fact, just 3 hours to gather her things and get out. The president wants her out of her quarters, is the quote. The admiral was further ordered to leave the house unlocked to allow for the interior to be photographed, and apparently she pushed back on that. She is said to have left the premises cordially despite an initial protest.
Wow.
With, quote, many or maybe all of her personal items and household goods still there in the place.
How many years of service to America has this woman given us? I mean, to treat her like that is really unconscionable.
Yeah, and she was a breakthrough figure, but it was stated that the emphasis on DEI was the thing that did it with her. They blamed her failure to grapple with border security threats and ineffective deployment of Coast Guard assets to manage drug smuggling. They farmed it all out, but they did specify DEI. Meantime, Elon Musk, he closed down USAID, as you know, we've talked about it effectively. But what the Inspector General was doing at USAID was an investigation involving Musk's company, Starlink. In 3 steps, Trump's administration killed that investigation because it would have embarrassed Elon's company, is the thinking. The idea was that Musk's company had closed down Starlink during the Ukraine confrontation in response to a request from Russia. This was the situation that was being looked into by the Inspector General. There's documentation for all of this. In his testimony, the Inspector General announced that he had launched an investigation involving Starlink satellite terminals in Ukraine. And he testified that in addition to another ongoing audit on direct budget support, we are examining USAID's energy security project, USAID's oversight of Starlink satellite terminals provided to the Ukrainian government, and USAID's efforts to protect against sexual exploitation and abuse in Ukraine. But the investigation involving Musk's company is effectively dead. Whatever damning information the investigation would have revealed is gone. It's been covered up for good because USAID is flushed. It was one of the first orders of business, and at the time we said it's odd because it takes up so small a part of the U.S. budget. That's the reason it was personal for Elon Musk. Meantime, NOAA is next on his list, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They've been told this week to stop all contact with foreign nationals, including on international treaties, on seafood catch limits. There is confusion and there is chaos at NOAA to the point that people are afraid to have any communication at all.
They're involved in a lot of scientific research that benefits the planet.
Absolutely right. They are a critical organization. And it doesn't stop there. The Federal Communications Commission investigating San Francisco-based KCBS for its coverage of immigration enforcement actions in San Jose last month. This has sparked concern from press freedom advocates, and it's drawn right-wing backlash to KCBS. In an interview on Fox News, Trump appointed Commission Chair Brendan Carr. This is the guy who is running the FCC. He's saying that he opened the investigation after KCBS shared the live locations and vehicle descriptions of immigration officials on January 26th.
That's incorrect. It wasn't live. It was hours after the fact.
We have sent a letter of inquiry, a formal investigation into that matter, he said, and they have just a matter of days left to respond to that inquiry and explain how this could possibly be consistent with their public interest obligations. Again, the FCC can pull the license of KCBS, and they may. They're trying to make a point everywhere across government. At the NSA Museum has covered plaques that honored women and people of color. That's right. It sounds insane, but they've actually covered them. Responding to President Trump's order that terminated diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, the National Cryptologic Museum taped sheets of paper over plaques that celebrate women and people of color who had served in the NSA.
You know, if you cover us up, women, we just go away. We'll sink into the background and you don't really have to deal with us anymore.
People are impersonating ICE agents to harass immigrants and commit crimes, according to the cops. Meantime, Trump has rehired an ex-speechwriter fired for speaking at a conference with white nationalists. Darren J. Beatty wrote, "Competent white men must be in charge if you want things to work." Unfortunately, our entire national ideology is predicated on coddling the feelings of women, minorities, and demoralizing competent white men.
Mr. Beatty sounds like a really nice guy.
He was fired, and now he's been rehired by the Trump administration. A top Musk lieutenant has moved his wife and baby into the government building where he's doing all his work. He's the Doge lieutenant that Musk believes in, and he's moved his kid and his wife into this government building. It's one of the weird things that has emerged this week as we find out that these Gen Z stormtroopers have moved into all of these government buildings and government computer systems. And finally, the insane plan to move undocumented migrants to Guantanamo. Might that really happen? President Trump's plan is to send up to 30,000 migrants to Guantanamo. But it may not happen. It's A, extremely expensive, and B, it may just be one more thing that's announced that is just to essentially confuse during this fog of war associated with all of these immigration moves that are done very high profile to essentially advertise the fact that Trump is cracking down on immigration.
I guess there's some kind of drone footage or footage from the sky of goings on at Guantanamo Bay, and they're putting up all these tents and they're changing things around, which would indicate that, you know, they're doing something out there, getting ready for an influx of people.
He may get it done. I mean, there are a lot of legal issues, but as I've said to you before, the legal is already becoming less relevant than it used to be. There are 13 states that are suing DOGE over access to the government payment systems containing personal data. Democratic attorneys general in several states vowing to file a lawsuit to stop Elon Musk's DOGE from moving forward. Government officials and labor unions have been among those who have raised concerns and now court cases. A federal judge, of course, ordering two Musk allies have read-only access at the Treasury Department payment systems as opposed to what they had before, which was really the ability to do whatever they wanted inside those computer systems. So once again, those are legal challenges, but we'll have to see if those legal challenges really hold up. And finally, Musk is trying to hobble federal workers ahead of this buyout deadline. He's declared war on the bureaucracy, and he says across government there is a message that paid vacations and the buyout is the way to go. The email that was sent to some federal employees at a department overseen by Musk's allies warned of impending pain if they don't take the vacations and the buyout. The guy who manages the Federal Acquisition Service at the GSA, the General Services Administration, said that we won't need staff in certain areas of the country. We will be cutting redundant business functions and associated staffing. We're also considering how we can utilize AI in our portfolios.
They're threatening them.
Exactly. Many staffers in the government are now grappling with what to do. Some have accepted the deferred resignations. We talked about this yesterday. Kim told you that 50,000 have taken them. But as the deadline approaches, others are growing defiant, vowing not to take the offer. It will be a mess without question. And whether or not these court cases come to pass in such a way that the government can be saved, these regulatory agencies can be saved, these jobs can be saved, these futures can be saved? We'll have to see. That's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.